Hello, everyone, and welcome to Staff Picks, a WPL program where we library staff get together to share our of reading with you, the community. We want to start today by acknowledging that Winnipeg is located on Treaty 1 territory, the home and traditional lands of the Anishinaabe, the Innu, and the Dakota peoples, and in the national homeland of the Red River Métis. Our drinking water comes from Shoal Lake 40 First Nation in Treaty 3 territory. Thank you for being with us today. Each episode of Staff Picks has a theme, and we pick a selection of books that we've read to enjoy and share with you. Today's theme is Read This, Watch That. I'm sure you've already picked up on what we're going to be doing today. Every book featured is available in the library collection somehow, sometimes multiple formats and languages. And the books in every episode are listed in an info guide that you can look back to. We've shared the link down below in our YouTube description. So how does this work? We're going to go around in round robin style, starting with me, your host, and we're going to take a turn talking about a book. We're going to do that 3 times, then we do lightning round. Fast, quick, hurry, give you more info fast. So let's start by introducing who we are to you. My name is Courtney, and I don't remember what I like to watch. Man, this has been a morning already. What was it? Oh, yes, K-pop Demon Hunters. Heart, much love. Ah. And then we're going to pass to the next. Madeleine, it's your turn.
Mm. Hi, I'm Madeleine. What I like to watch is so recently I've been watching the show The Chair Company, which is made by Tim Robinson, who did the show, probably more well-known show called I Think You Should Leave. So it's sort of a comedy horror, I would say. There's a lot of weird stuff going on, but it's very funny too. He's got a specific style. And it's on to Meg.
Hello, I am Meg. All I want to watch is Wicked. I'm going to rewatch the first half tonight. I have tickets tomorrow. So excited.
All right, we'll let you be excited. Megan, I disagree about Wicked. That's a whole different thing, though. So, I'm first. All right, what are we talking about first? First, oh, let's pick up 7 things all at once. Yeah, that's super helpful. First is Lessons in Chemistry by Bonnie Garmis. This is a fairly new book, came out in 2022. It was her debut novel. It's adult fiction, genre's historical fiction. We have it in every possible way. We've got it in print, ebook, audiobook, CD, large print, book club kit. You can read it alone. You can listen to it. You can read with your friends. It's about 390 pages, so it's big enough. And if I was trying to sell you on a tagline, it would be cooking is chemistry, best served with a slice of 1960s feminism. Shocking coming from me, I know. So the basic plot of this is that in the early 1960s, chemist and single mother Elizabeth Zott is the reluctant star of America's most beloved cooking show due to her revolutionary skills in the kitchen. And she uses this opportunity to dare women to challenge and change the status quo. I avoided reading this for a really long time, trying to go on the path of things a little less found. And I will tell you, this is a well-loved book for a reason. It's good. When I sat down and started reading it, I couldn't stop. What I wish I would have known before I started was trigger warning. There's some early on scenes of sexual violence, and I would have loved to skip past that and had a heads up. So here's your heads up, peeps. I'm sure it probably also happens in the TV version, so probably watch out for that as well. So this book is about a strong, smart woman struggling against the chauvinism of the 1960s, trying to create her own path and live her own life on her own terms. So my goal was to then create movies. Well, not create. Yeah, here I am. I'm a movie star. No, find, curate. That's the word. Curate some movies that kind of went on with that. So obviously, there is the Apple TV show called Lessons in Chemistry based on this. So yes, that's the first one. We don't have that in the library collection though, so that's no good to me. Other things that are similar to that in the library collection, however, are Mona Lisa's Smile, which we have streaming on Canopy, and that is, while it's not, we're talking art versus chemistry, it's the vibe is pretty similar. And another one that was very interesting was Women in Science, which is streaming on Canopy as well. There are other movies and shows that you can think of, I'm sure. Um, Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, Self-Made, Good Girls Revolt, that are kind of the same vibe, but these are the ones that we have that I think complement it very well. Lots of awards for all of these things. They're very popular. If you're looking for another read-alike, Julie and Julia by Julie Powell, Good Girls Revolt by Lynn Popfitch, and Where'd You Go, Bernadette by Marie Semple. And that was, once again, can I hold this book up for the seventh time? Lessons in Chemistry by Bonnie Garmis. On to you, Madeleine.
There we go. So the book that I've chosen is Girl Interrupted by Susanna Keeson. So this is the book that inspired the well-known movie of the same name. I haven't actually seen the film since it first came out when I was about 13, so a long time ago now. But it made a big impression on me at the time. And so I'm glad I finally got around to reading the book. So it's the author, Susanna Keeson's personal journal from the time she was in a psychiatric ward in the 1960s. So she makes a lot of sensitive observations of the different people she encountered, which I remembered as some of the characters from the movie, especially Lisa, who's the Angelina Jolie character, who's one of the patients she ends up growing close to. And I believe Angelina won an Oscar for that role. It's important to note that this is a specific type of perspective, as it was an institution for people on the wealthier side of the economic spectrum. So very different than, say, maybe like a government funded institution. But it's still very humanizing and destigmatizing look at mental illness. So Keeston has a unique way of explaining what it feels like to live with some of the conditions that she struggles with, and as well as just the day-to-day experience of living in a psychiatric ward for an extended period of time, and the interactions between the staff and the patients, and who she likes and who she doesn't like. So yes, it's a very, very good read. And so I decided to pair it with Parachute. So we don't have the movie in our collection, but we do have a movie called Parachute, which is the 2023 directorial debut by actress Brittany Snow. It's on a Canopy. And it's based on some of her own experiences struggling with an eating disorder and her own body image issues. So unlike Girl Interrupted, the lead character, Riley, starts off just leaving his facility after a year in treatment for her eating disorder, just only to face the new challenge of learning how to cope while she's in the outside world. So there's a focus on her. She's got a codependent relationship with the man that she meets basically the day after she gets out, the same day she gets out, actually. And she tells herself that she's not getting into a romantic relationship because her therapist advised her not to do that for about a year afterwards. But the friendship ends up still not being very healthy. And this man has his own issues with falling into a caretaking role because of his own history. So the subject matter is fairly heavy, but it lands on an ultimately hopeful message about gaining self-compassion and self-awareness and finding healing through art. So one of my favorite parts is when she gets a job through one of her best friends at a mediocre dinner theater. And so she starts thinking about how she could improve the murder mystery plot because people keep guessing the solution really early. So she starts working on that. And I picked a read-alike and a watch-alike. So I picked the book, the YA book, Turtles All the Way Down by John Green, which is about a girl who has very, very severe OCD. And the movie Words on Bathroom Walls, which is about a teenage boy with schizophrenia. And yeah, so going to Meg.
Good choices. We are taking a turn. I have entered my mystery era, so be warned. My first pick is The Antique Hunter's Guide to Murder by C.L. Miller. It is a mystery, about 300 pages. We have the physical book, ebook, and e-audiobook available to you. This mystery follows Freya Lockwood, who is a former antique hunter. She's had a few rough years, so it starts where she's kind of not quite herself. We can tell she used to be quite a strong woman who's had some rough years. And the story opens when her estranged mentor has unexpectedly passed away, and she has to kind of return to her past and face a lot of things that she might not want to face. She then receives a letter from Arthur, her mentor, warning her of danger. She meets a quirky ant, and they realize his death is kind of suspicious and start following clues. And it's kind of as if he's left them a scavenger hunt to find an item of great worth. And so we're off. It is great fun. So this was one, as I say, I'm kind of starting my mystery reading journey. And I couldn't put this down once I started it. It has a little bit of everything we love in mystery. There is a quirky ant. We're in a quaint English village. There's an antique shop full of mystery. There's a journey to Egypt in the past that everybody talks about, but also doesn't really ever talk about. There's a mansion full of unlikable, very wealthy people, but some reason we need them. It ticks a lot of boxes. It's also a nice kind of it's kind of cozy, but it's edgy cozy, I would say. So I don't really like too much violence or gore in my mystery. I want something a little more cozy, but this was the thrilling side of cozy. So I quite enjoyed that. The story also offers a lot for people who like kind of art and antiques. There was a lot of that kind of Dan Brown level detail for the art world, but it didn't bog down the story. It still kept up a really good pace, and it focused on Martin Brothers Wally birds. So if you don't know what those are, it's this. And if you're looking at your screen and being like, that picture didn't print out very well, it looks hideous. No, that's kind of what they look like. That's their whole thing. Are they hideous? Are they art? They're kind of odd looking. That's kind of it. They are from the late 1800s, made by the Martin Brothers. They're stoneware containers. The heads come off. They sell for about $50,000. I know. So that is what the story kind of revolves around. There is this missing Wally bird. And yeah, so of course I had to look up what is a Wally bird because I didn't know what a Wally bird was. And this is one of them. There are many of them. They all kind of look like this. So that's good fun. So yeah, I just enjoyed it. Antique Hunter's Guide to Murder, all around good fun. It does leave off, not on a cliffhanger. This story is wrapped off. But it does leave off in a great place for the next book, which I have not read yet, but I'm very excited to read. And for my Watch That combo on Canopy, we offer Antiques Roadshow. Oh, that's right. How could I not pick this? So Canopy offers a lot of great classic shows. I chose Antiques Roadshow because it's a recognizable classic, and it features a lot of the kind of odd things you might find that are worth very high prices, like our buddy, the Wally bird. I also just thought I would bring up the Great Courses Binge Pass because Antique Hunter's Guide to Murder does talk a lot about art, antiquities, and travel, particularly Egypt and Cairo. So Great Courses are basically very in-depth courses for self-directed learning. So you could learn everything about a topic through these 14-hour courses. And a binge pass through Hoopla is basically one borrow that you get for 7 days, and you get a lot of content. You might get a whole series of a show, you might get a whole set of movies, or you might get a lot of great courses. I thought I would print out everything you get to borrow with the Great Courses Binge Pass, and then I just stopped because it was getting kind of absurd.
You have a master's degree in Hoopla now, Meg. My word.
Yeah, I just stopped printing. So yeah, you get a lot of stuff with a binge pass. So if you liked the Antique Hunter's Guide to Murder, you might like great courses, Antiques Roadshow, and many other things we offer on Hoopla.
Solid. These online things, the Canopy, the Hoopla, Flipster, Novelist, all the things that we have digitally, you can get a lot from your library card that you hadn't expected. I was not doing great remembering that Hoopla and Canopy are a thing because my phone is so full all the time. And I ended up buying this book, my next pick, and it's free on Hoopla. I'm so annoyed with myself. So learn better because my next pick, Remarkably Bright Creatures by Shelby Van Pelt, has so many holds on it that the physical copy is kind of hard to get your hands on. But the Hoopla copy, you can get both audiobook and ebook right away to read. So my next pick is Remarkably Bright Creatures, which is a magical realism book in adult fiction. So we have it print, ebook, and audiobook. It's about 368 pages. It's similar to the vibe of Lessons in Chemistry, but the vibe is about the only thing that's the same. So the tagline is kind of an exploration of friendship, reckoning, and hope, tracing a widow's unlikely connection with a giant Pacific octopus. Sure, I'm in. I also avoided this one because it was so ridiculously popular. Then I started reading it and I loved it. So apparently I just need to like popular things because the people know. So, what is this book about? The book is about Tova. She's a night janitor at an aquarium. It's a job she took after her husband just recently passed because she's used to keeping herself busy. She started keeping herself busy after her son mysteriously disappeared some years before. So at the aquarium, she makes this weird and wonderful friendship with this octopus named Marcellus, who is spicy and snarky and an escape artist. Like, what is not to love about the octopus? He's basically the octopus from the Disney Finding Nemo. Hugo is his name, I think, who like escapes. Well, here
Finding
he is
Dory.
again. Yeah, right?
Yeah.
Love it. Oh, Finding Dory. See, wrong. Thank you. So this friendship with Marcellus ends up in this really weird spot because Marcellus knows more things than people know that he knows, including the solution to what happened to Tova's son. What? How? Read the book and you'll find out. But who's not going to like a book about an octopus, a snarky octopus? His thoughts are in here and it's like, I liked it. It's funny. So this is the vibe with that book. So obviously, what's similar to that? Probably something to do with an octopus. So I picked Octopus Making Contact because it's a video on Canopy about this art. Like he lives in Alaska. He's a scientist he's an octopus scientist in Alaska. Make that make sense. And he brings an octopus into his house for his daughter as a pet. And then like the video just shows the year about how like they're doing that. It's really interesting. I also watch My Octopus Teacher. That's on Netflix. That's not something we have. But what is similar with the vibe of Remarkably Bright Creatures is the Friedrich Bachmann, A Man Called Ove, A Man Called Otto. So those were the other two movies that I picked from our collection. The Man Called Ove is in Swedish. We have it streaming, and A Man Called Otto is in English with your favorite Tom Hanks. We have that on DVD and Blu-ray. Trigger warning for that. There's a lot of it's the whole movie is largely based around suicide and second chances and things like that. So it's a dark film about a grumpy man, but there's that hope and buoyancy and things underneath it. So I haven't finished watching it yet, but I started. So you can let me know if that was a good pick or not. Yeah, other honorable mentions, obviously reading A Man Called Ove. That would do it. People also seem to say The Storied Life of A.J. Fikry by Gabrielle Zevin is another good one. So yeah, Remarkably Bright Creatures. Learn about octopuses. That's what I'm telling you today. There you go, Madeleine. Time for your next one.
All right, good picks. I love Friedrich Bachmann. I think his latest just arrived in my account, the audiobook. So I'm excited to get into that. I just realized I forgot to show my covers for Girl Interrupted, and Parachutes. Right. And so my next book that I chose is The Miseducation of Cameron Post. So it's a YA novel. This book is about, it's by Emily M. Danforth. It's about a 16-year-old lesbian girl in a small town in the 1990s who, after getting caught with a female friend of hers, she sort of gets thrown under the bus by said friend. And so she's sent to by her aunt and uncle to a conversion camp. She lives with them because her parents died when she was very young in a car accident. So the movie is also very good, but I really love the parts in the book when she talks about trying to find movies that reflect her own experiences, which was a lot harder to come by at the time. There's a lot more, LGBT content out these days. So I like when she talks about kind of these old cult classics such as Personal Best, Desert Hearts, and The Hunger, which I just watched for the first time last year. It's a good vampire movie. So despite the heavy material, there's some very heartbreaking scenes, especially at the conversion camp. Cameron's a really funny, smart girl who just wants to be free to be her true self, and she's willing to resist the brainwashing she encounters and fight her way out of this oppressive environment she's forced into with the friends that she makes there. So the whole book doesn't take place at the conversion camp, and the parts of her beforehand that are just her growing up in her town and learning about herself are also very compelling. So we have the movie on Canopy and Hoopla, but I actually paired it with a different movie. So I recommend the movie, but I paired it with the movie Princess Sid from 2017, directed by Stephen Cohn. So I actually almost went with the movie But I'm a Cheerleader, which is one of my favorite rom-coms, which also takes place at a conversion camp. But I decided to pick Princess Sid, which is about a 16-year-old girl on sort of a different kind of queer journey. So when she was a child, Sid lost her mom in a traumatic way that you find out what it is later in the movie. And her and her dad have had a really rocky relationship for a lot of her life. So she and her dad decide that she can move from South Carolina to Chicago for the summer to live with her mom's sister, Miranda Ruth, who's an established author. So Sid is a soccer player, whereas Miranda's, into the arts. She's an author. She's got a lot of artist friends. But I really like the natural development of her relationship with her aunt. It's really beautiful. It's one of my favorite parts of the movie, and they learn a lot from each other, and you can see how Sid, matures a bit. She starts to open her mind to a bigger world than she's used to and starts to discover her own sexuality when she meets another girl named Katie working in a coffee shop. It's a very sweet, gentle, kind of heartwarming movie without being overly sentimental. And so, so I picked a couple honorable mentions. One book is We Are Okay by Nina LaCour. So she's one of my favorites. This is a YA fiction book with a lesbian character also dealing with parental grief. It's a throughway through all three of those. And so I put But I'm a Cheerleader in my honorable mentions. So that movie is directed by Jamie Babbitt, starring Natasha Lyonne and Clea Duvall. There's a bit of so it's a little bit more of a campy kind of movie rather than the little more serious Cameron Post, but a conversion camp. And a fun bit of trivia: there's a shot at the end of the Cameron Post movie, which is a direct homage to the end shot of "But I'm a Cheerleader." So that was kind of cool. Yeah. All right, and I guess Meg next.
I haven't seen But I'm a Cheerleader in a long time, but I might have to rewatch it after this. All right, my next read is The House at Watch Hill by Karen Mary Moaning. Who would I be if I didn't bring a witchy read to us today? So this is a fiction read. We have it under. It's about 350 pages. We have it as a physical book, an e-book, and an e-audiobook. If you know Karen Mary Moaning, this is another great read. She knows what she writes. She writes it well. Zoe Gray is our main character. She's had a tough life. Sadly, it opens. She's really fighting for her job, and she has one of those managers that is just not giving her a break. And then sadly, her mother suddenly passes in this horrible way. Then she receives a call from a lawyer in Louisiana saying A distant relative has left her a massive inheritance. That's not suspicious at all. Weird. What is this inheritance? He's not willing to discuss it over the phone. She has to come in person. Also, not suspicious at all. But honestly, she has nothing to lose, so why not? She's going to head off to this little town in Louisiana, and it's a huge fortune and a massive, terrifying Gothic manor at Watch Hill. And there's one catch to getting this fortune. She has to live in the house at Watch Hill alone for 3 years. So again, she's had a really tough life. She now has nothing left to lose. So she says yes. Ooh! So of course there are all these signs where she's like, that's probably a bad omen, but why not? Let's do it. Yeah, she decides to live in the house, and that's the start of our story. She moves in. There's this beautiful but strange owl that seems to be swooping in and being like, don't live in this house. And she's all like, I'm going to live in this house. There is a random but extremely sexy Scottish man who appears out of nowhere and is all like, you shouldn't be here. And she's like, I'm going to live in this house. Why don't you come on in? And he's like, I cannot cross the threshold, because of course he can't cross the threshold. But she still chooses to live in this house. Anyway, this is our story, and I love it. We know I love it. The house is full of mystery. It's this old town that nobody else seems to know about. The people have very strong opinions of her. They're either very welcoming or like, who are you? You shouldn't be here. She soon discovers she has her own connection to this town, and perhaps she has powers that are awakening. Yes, I love it. You know I love it. For fans of Karen Mary Moaning, it has everything. She is so good at writing. We have a strong female lead who's kind of discovering her strength, both magical and the strength within her. We have sexy men who just seem to be coming out of everywhere for some reason, and they're all obsessed with her for some reason. You just accept it. We have magic owls. Yes. We have this haunted house with amazing character that seems to kind of exist in all time and space, and strange ancient magic. Yes, I love it. Again, she knows what she writes. She writes it so well. We have a great cast, fast-paced writing, and a great plot set in this modern-day magical town that feels very real. I would recommend it for readers who like that modern supernatural thriller. You've heard me talk about Deborah Harkness. It's a little more that kind of dark romance than her writing, but again, that kind of modern day magical and real life feeling. I'd recommend for good haunted house stories. I wouldn't call it horror. It's definitely more supernatural spooky than horror, but still, you know, kind of in that supernatural, fun, spooky space. And for my watch this pairing, I picked Haunted History on Canopy. Here we have our classic late 90s supernatural documentary. Is there a ghost in this hotel? Let's talk about it for 40 minutes. Like, it's just fun. You can watch an episode before bed and not be too scared to go to sleep. I'm a scaredy cat, so, you know, that's me talking. Yeah, just good fun. We do have a full season on Canopy, so that's also nice. And if you like the witchy side, I quite enjoyed The Witches of Hollywood on Hoopla. It is about an hour long. It's made in 2022, and it's a documentary about witches as represented in film from like the beginning of film to 2022. So it takes us from the first representation of the kind of old crone, warts, ugly, hunched over, through to the evil queen in Snow White, who's significant because she was the first beautiful queen who held, or the first beautiful witch, sorry, who held power as a queen. To Glinda and the Wizard of Oz, wicked shout out. Glinda was significant because she was the first good witch ever represented in film. I think I mentioned that before. I'm going to mention it again, probably. And then to Bewitched, who is actually a very significant representation because that was the first witch who ever married a man and continued to hold her power as a witch and represented the fact that it was very difficult for a woman to run a household, be a good wife, have dinner on the table. Like, that was hard. It took actual magic for her to do all of that. And this was represented on film with this kind of tongue in cheek, like, oh, I burn things and magic, done. You're welcome. I'm amazing. So yeah, it kind of takes us through film showing all of these significant kind of changes in representation of witches in Hollywood, all the way up to about Harry Potter. So my warning for this film, there is some nudity since it shows art, statues, and clips of films where there is nudity. It's very brief. And again, it is like, a marble statue that is naked. But there is nudity. It is a documentary interviewing academics, so it is meant for adults in general, but I thought I would mention that. So those are my read this, watch that for supernatural and witchy readers and viewers. Over to you, Courtney.
I'm shocked by this no. Yeah, I can't even finish the sentence. Stop recommending things I have to read and watch YouTube. My list is so big already. Okay, we're going graphic novel because I haven't done that yet today. Every Day by David Levithan. This is actually based on a YA book from 2012. So it takes the story and puts a graphic spin on it. The book Every Day is actually a 3.5 book series. We have it in print, ebook, audiobook, and on CD. The graphic novel is obviously just in print. There's also a movie about it too. So there you go. And we have that on DVD and Blu-ray. It's a graphic novel. It's not too big. It's about 208 pages. And this is based around someone named A. Every day a different body, every day a different life, every day in love with the same girl. So A wakes up every morning in a different body. Every day is a different person and has to figure out how to navigate through their life for a day because they switch into another body the next day. There does seem to be some rules. They don't know anybody else like them, but the rules that they follow are never get too attached, avoid being noticed, don't interfere. So there is some sort of like paradoxy, big philosophical talk about what it means to be in someone else's body and what allowances you take because you are taking over for someone else because the other consciousness is still there. And so they get into that in different parts of the book and the graphic novel. But they have different genders, ethnicities, personality types, different life situations. So they're really quite an empathetic, understanding teenager because they've been all of these different things. As I said, I'm late to the game on this one because it's from 2012, but the graphic novel just came out in 2023. The film came out in 2018. So it was kind of interesting for me. This snatched me. And then I watched the movie and now I have to read all the books. So I have to get in on that because apparently it says in the rest of the books, they find other people like them. Well, like, I want to know more. Um, so as I said, I watched the film. And the film sticks pretty close to what the story is. But it feels like a chapter, like there's more to this story you want to know about. Other films that are kind of similar to that are about time and Age of Adeline. They're not the same as like you wake up in a different body, but they're like Age of Adeline, she's kind of immortal and can't die. And About Time, the guy can go back and redo things in certain parts of time, which is interesting. It's all about second chances and reimagining and learning. But then as a twist, I looked at Canopy and Hoopla for time travel videos because while this isn't time travel, there are timey-wimey aspects in there. So there is a series on Canopy called The Mysteries of Modern Time Physics. And it's like a big, kind of like one of those big courses that you learn about. So it's like 12 hours. It's a big commitment to learning about that. So if that's like too much, there's a smaller one on Hoopla called A Brief History of Time Travel. It's only an hour and it features Bill Nye. That's signed, sealed, delivered. I'm going to watch that one next. Some of these films have some adult themes, including self-harm, so just watch yourself with that. And my honorable mentions will be Will Grayson by our favorite John Green, because the vibe kind of seems the same. And there's a graphic novel named Flip that's coming out soon that seems to be quite like this. So I've got that on the holds list already. So yeah, that's Every Day by David Levithan. And I hope I said that right because otherwise I'm going to kick myself for like forever. Your turn, Madeline.
All right. I realized I fell behind in the covers again. It's the Princess Sid cover. I really like that name actress, Jessie Pinnock, I believe her name is. So the next title I picked was it's actually one of my favorite books, The Line of Beauty by Alan Hollinghurst. So there's the cover. There is a BBC miniseries with Dan Stevens from Downton Abbey, but I don't think we have it in the collection anymore. I think we used to. But so yeah, as I said, it's one of my personal favorite books and the winner of the Man Booker Prize in 2004. So it's about a young gay man named Nick. So he graduates from Oxford College in Thatcher's England in the 1980s, and he moves in with his best friend Toby's family. So it takes place over a few years in London when he's staying with them. And Toby's father is a conservative politician. So one of the people who would have probably been voting for Section 28, which was a part of a local government act that restricted teaching about homosexuality in schools. So it seems a little relevant for the current day as well. He develops a friendship with his best friend, with Toby's sister, Kat, who struggles with mental illness. And after he helps her through a crisis, the family takes quite a liking to him, which ends up having both positive and negative consequences for his life. So one of the main themes of the book is sort of the dangers of maybe putting aside politics and beliefs with people who maybe won't hesitate to toss you aside when it's convenient for them. And there's a very central scene where he's dancing with Margaret Thatcher herself at a party because he's gets to go to all these fancy events now that he's sort of in the in crowd with the family he's staying with, sort of a dancing with the devil moment, as I believe the author called it. And so I paired that with, there's a movie called The Last of England, directed by Derek Jarman from 1987. So this is a very different movie. Like I've never seen really anything like this before. Here's the cover. So that's actually a young Tilda Swinton on the cover. So yeah, so it was kind of cool. I didn't know she was in a movie like this. It's a non-linear experimental film about the downfall of England. It sort of starts with a narrative poetry thing going on, and then I think he kind of drops that after a little while. And the scenes seem to take place in a future dystopian England where like buildings are on fire, the government is falling. And so Derek Jarman himself was a gay activist who fought against the aforementioned Section 28. And this film was made shortly after he found out that he had contracted HIV, which he eventually died of an illness he got from having HIV. And you can really feel his rage at the injustice on behalf of the community. As I mentioned, there's a somewhat famous scene in the film starring a young Tilda Swinton as a bride grieving the death of her husband. So it's right at the end. I haven't actually seen a lot of experimental films like this, and I'd be interested in seeing some of his others. So we might have some others in the collection as well. This was on Canopy. So I picked a read-alike is another one of my favorite books, Brideshead Revisited by Evelyn Waugh. I've read that and I've seen all the TV adaptations, and yeah, I never get tired of that story. And as well as for a movie, I picked Portrait of a Lady on Fire, directed by Celine Sciamma from 2019, which I finally watched recently because I've been meaning to watch forever, and I really enjoyed it. And yeah, I guess we'll do the lightning round now.
Ooh, I get one more full-length pick,
Right.
then lightning rounds.
Yes.
So my last choice is The Fire Never Goes Out, a memoir and pictures by N.D. Stevenson. So this is a nonfiction graphic novel biography. It is about 200 pages, and it's an autobiography for N.D. Stevenson. If you don't know, N.D. Stevenson is, he is a comic artist, I believe is how he refers to himself. Specifically the comic artist known for, or I guess comic artist and animator known for She-Ra, Princesses of Power, Lumberjanes, and Nimona, all of which are big name award winners. So hopefully you know them, some of which are here with their awards prominently featured on the cover. His works tend to feature themes of fantasy, friendship, and found family, and often explore identity. N.D. Stevenson identifies as non-binary transmasc, so you may see some of his works published under his previous name, and particularly in The Fire Never Goes Out, using different pronouns and a different name. So I would say The Fire Never Goes Out is an autobiography, but we still see a lot of the themes that he writes about in his other works. Talks about his life and career for the years 2009 to 2019. And he tells us that through many of his sketchbooks, there were drawings down the side. And he kind of realized that those doodles were his autobiography. So the autobiography is told through text, drawings, and some photographs. So I've got a sample page marked here that kind of shows what it's like. So each chapter is a different year, and it takes us through, the whole book takes us through art school, personal relationships, his journey gaining popularity and career success, specifically with Nimona, the travel for events and award shows, and then some of the struggles with the pressure that comes from gaining the mass popular attention, and kind of ending off with hinting at the major project, which we now know would have been She-Ra, Princesses of Power. Through it all, he speaks of this hole in his chest and a fire there. So we see that kind of on the cover. And this fire is sometimes empty, it's sometimes raging and consuming, and sometimes it keeps him warm. So we can kind of see there, it's actually consuming, keeping warm. I found that uncomfortably relatable. So I absolutely love this book. As someone who is creative, I found parts of it very relatable. I had to read it in chunks. So, kind of reading it, putting it down, coming back to it. It wasn't a difficult read overall, but parts of Andy's story are difficult, and he shares that with us. So overall, it was a beautiful perspective into his life and creative process, and what informs some of these stories like Nimona that some of us find so wonderful and incredible. So I'd recommend it for anyone who is an artist, crafter, or creative of any kind. I'd also recommend it for people who like a great biography, even if you're kind of new to graphic novels or haven't read one before. Give it a try. And I paired it with Drawing the Line, a portrait of Keith Haring, which we have on Hoopla. It's a film from 1989, only 28 minutes, and it's, I believe they referred to it as an art bio film, but is a biographic film. I picked it because it is another 2S LGBTQIA plus individual artist telling their story. It features a lot of interviews with Keith Haring. If you don't know who he is, you might recognize his art. He's this guy. He became famous during the late 80s and early 90s for the bright pop style and political messages of his art. In particular, he used art to advocate for the HIV/AIDS crisis in the 90s. So the film follows Keith Haring's early career, specifically his rise from street art to selling in galleries, and then later he opened a store to sell his art, which sounds very normal to us now, but at the time was a huge deal, like massive. He also worked to raise funds for causes he believed in. There are many interviews with him, which I believe this is some of the only recordings of interviews with him. So that was pretty great. One of my main critiques, as much as I did enjoy this, is that it's from 1989 and it really focuses on his art. So there's very little about his motivation. By that, I mean, there isn't actually a lot of discussion about his political motivation and his activism, which was a big part of his work that is missing for me. Also, trigger warning for the film. It is from 1989, so they do use language we would not use today, particularly for topics like HIV and the 2S LGBTQIA plus community. I think it's pretty good for the time, to be honest. It's just for today, we just wouldn't use that language. So particularly for both of these, what I really love is that they follow significant artists in the 2S LGBTQ community from early career through to success. I really appreciate hearing their own voice, and we get a lot of both from their own voices. They both started on their own terms, N.D. Stevenson from webcomics, Keith Harrington from street art, and they used those platforms to elevate their own voice and say what they had to say, and it really spoke to people, which is amazing. We also get to hear their own reflection on how they, made it, they were successful, and that was really hard. They both talk about how it was really great, but really challenging. It affected their practice, it affected their mental health, and I just really appreciated that authenticity. So both of the book and the film are great cross perspective sort of for two of these artists at different times, and I hope you enjoy them as much as I did. Now on to the lightning round.
Lightning round! Okay, for a total change in everything, do you know about Andrew Kaufman? Because he's weird and Canadian and wonderful and one of my favorites. And this is his newest one that came out this year, and it's just a baby. It's just 152 pages, and each chapter is a different part of the story. And it's called Enjoy Your Stay at the Shamrock Motel. It's a magic realism short story thing. And it's if Aesop meet Anais Nin in absurdist stories with unexpected redemption. I know. Strange, right? So getting to the Shamrock Motel isn't easy. To find it, you have to be lost. Not on the map, but like in your heart and soul lost. No one spends the night or even an hour without some sort of transformation. The time spent at the Shamrock Motel will make you wiser, stronger, and more yourself, even if that's the last thing you want. It's kind of like you don't get to choose, it's going to give you what you need. These stories explore the intersection of personality and desire, love and lust, the joy and sadness of being alive and in love. He's a weird, weird, wonderful man, and I love his brain. I've read everything he's ever written. Tiny Wife, Waterproof Bible. There's just a whole bunch of them. He's kind of like a Christopher Moore. So, like Island of the Sequined Love Nun, Fluke, like weird stuff. This is him. I picked it because I love his weird brain. It's an adult book with adult themes, though humans, like serious adult themes. So I warned you. Short book, short tales, short films. Canopy has this really, really cool series from Stash with trippy ones, surreal ones, magic, fantasy, sci-fi, inspiration. So there's a whole bunch of them. And short films are fun because you get little stories really quickly. And then the other thing that this reminded me of is my favorite, one of my favorite Canadian series called Being Erica, which is about this girl who goes to a therapist, and every time with a therapist, she goes back into her past and relearns something about her life and like experiences it from a different angle. Oh, also Canadian, right? Love it. Great. I can never say enough good things about that. So, read everything by Andrew Kaufman and watch Being Erica and short films. There, that was kind of lightning-ish. Okay, Madeleine, your turn to lightning it up.
All right. So for my lightning round, I first picked Little Fires Everywhere. So it's the story of Mia Warren, it's by Celeste Ng. It's the story of Mia Warren, who's a nomadic artist, and her daughter Pearl. So they moved to the community of Shaker Heights, Ohio in the 1990s, which actually has its own interesting history. I was sort of looking up what is a very kind of interesting community. And it's also about a wealthy family, the Richardsons, who are a couple with 4 children, and how the Warrens' appearance affects the community. So it starts off with a fire, and then you find out what happened over the rest of it. It's also made into a mini series, which I don't think we have available, but definitely would like to see. And I thought it was I paired it with the movie Mermaids, which is actually I'd never seen it before. So classic Cher movie from the '80s, which is a movie starring Cher, who's also sort of a nomadic person in this movie in 1963, with two daughters, Winona Ryder and Christina Ricci, who's very little in this movie, just a little baby in this movie. And they also live as I said, a nomadic lifestyle, though for different reasons than the Warrens, which are a little more immediately apparent. And yeah, I've enjoyed both of those. Right. Next.
All right, we're heading into the children's realm with Fluffy McWhisker's Cuteness Explosion, which, to be clear, specifically says Explosions by Stephen Martin and Cuteness by Dan Travis. Or Tavis, I apologize. So this is about Fluffy McWhiskers, who's a kitten so cute it's dangerous. If you see her, you will explode. So literally, all she wants is a friend, but she's so cute. Even when her picture is printed in the paper and everyone sees the paper, they explode. It is a great read aloud. You practice with the kids first. Everyone say kaboom with me. And then when everyone goes kaboom, everyone says kaboom. It is so much fun. Maybe she makes a cute dog friend at the end, and together they make everyone explode because together they are so cute. Who knows? It's adorable. I paired that with Canopy Kids. If you don't know, when you log into Canopy, right up here where my two hot pink arrows point, you can switch over to Canopy Kids. And then it is all kid-friendly content, none of which costs any tickets. So as long as you choose to let your young readers view children's content, they can view kids' content. There is Rainbow Reads. There is Pigeon. Oh, where'd Pigeon go? Oh, right. I put Pigeon right over there. I forgot. Paddington Bear, all those familiar favorites, and they're all pretty short. And again, they don't cost any tickets and Canopy Kids.
Yeah, now I know all about the tickets. The tickets, they run out the tickets. Ha! But we have more tickets than we used to have. I think it used to be 8, now it's 15 per month. So get in there, people. Okay, my last one for the day is actually not a book that we have physically in the collection. It's only on, is it on Hoopla? Ebook and audiobook, and it's called Audition for the Fox by Martin Cahill. This just came out this year. It is just a baby book. It's 192 pages. And it's about a trickster fox god who challenges an underachieving acolyte to save herself and her own ancestors. Who doesn't love tricksters? I do. So Nessie is desperate to earn the patronage of one of the 99 pillars of heaven. If she cannot earn a divine chaperone, she will never be allowed to leave the temple. And she's failed 96 auditions. There are only 3 left for her to do. So she makes a risky move to go to the Fox of Tricks. She's thrown back 300 years in the past when her homeland is occupied, and she must learn the trickster's guile to snatch the fortress from the disgraced and save the future by saving her ancestors. Paradoxes everywhere because she can't just go, hey guys, these are bad people. Let's just do this and then everything's fine, right? And also, tricksters are tricksters. Interesting. So I paired this book with Canopy has this series called Mythologies of the World, and it's one of those really, really big ones, and it's from the early 2010s. But episode 57 from Mythologies of the World is specifically about Indigenous tricksters. Since it's from 2012 and it's American, they use different terminology than we use. And there is a focus on some more American Indigenous tribes than the ones that we have up here. There is crossover, though, if you know about different treaties and areas and territories. Still very interesting. They also do specify some like Haida and things that come up in BC. So that was very interesting, going into tricksters and different mythologies. Also, if you're going to go trickster fox, do you not think of Fantastic Mr. Fox? And maybe even bad guys. It's a wolf, but it's similar. Redemption arc for all of our trickstery creatures. We do like the trickstery creatures. So yeah, Audition for the Fox. I read it so fast. It was really good. I recommend it highly. Things like it would be like The Gospel of Loki by Joanne Harris or Son of a Trickster by our beloved Canadian Eden Robinson. All right, that's my last lightning.
All right. So for my last lightning title, I picked also one of my favorite books, Harriet the Spy by Louise Fitzhugh. So this is one of those books that I think I read about 100 times when I was maybe 11 years old, and I got a notebook that looked just like her, and I thought it was one of the best books, and I read it as an adult as well, and it still really holds up. It's just very good book. So it's about a girl who lives in the Upper West Side of New York City, and she spies on her neighbors and writes notes about them and her friends. But when her notebook gets stolen from one of her classmates, it causes a lot of trouble because they all find out what she's been writing about them. And she has a very cool sort of role model figure in her nanny named Old Golly, who's played by Rosie O'Donnell in the movie. Yes, a very good movie too. And so I paired this with a show on Canopy called Lila in the Loop. So Lila Loops is a 7-year-old girl with a fuzzy blue sidekick creature named Stu. Lila and her family run a local diner called Loop's Lunch. So it's maybe aimed at a little bit of a younger audience than Harriet the Spy, but Lila does do a little mystery and problem solving while helping her community at the same time. And in Harriet the Spy, Harriet sometimes talks about how or she daydreams about becoming a private detective when she grows up, so she can write all day while solving cases. And that's it. And nice, Meg is next.
Nice. My last pick is Taste by Stanley Tucci. I cannot recommend this enough. It is his biography as told through food, which sounds just odd enough to be wonderful. I could not put this down. And then I also listened to the audiobook. So we have the physical book and the audiobook available. He reads the audiobook, which makes it even better. You may recognize Stanley Tucci from his acting career, and his writing does not disappoint. So this is essentially the story of his life, focusing on the flavors and recipes and moments around the table to anchor his life and his stories and his relationships. And it is beautiful and wonderful and told with his humor and candor and wit. And it just makes it so engaging. And it really made me reflect on so many of the important moments in my life and how so many of them happened around a table or sharing a meal or learning a recipe and learning how to cook. And honestly, I think so many people, I would recommend this book or turn on the audiobook while you're cooking or driving or focusing on a really great book. Honestly, it was absolutely wonderful. And cannot recommend enough. Stanley Tucci, Taste My Life Through Food. Also some sad parts. And it doesn't really focus on his film career. It's more like his life. Just beautiful. My film pairings, honestly, Canopy and Hoopla have so many options that focus on food, cooking shows, travel. I chose Dream of Italy. Within about 5 minutes, our host is going through a market, looking at delicacies and talking about truffles and pairing them with wine and cheese. It's a travel show, but she immediately is in a market talking to locals about food. It was great. And then, that one was on Hoopla. This one is on Canopy. Episodes 13 and 14 of Everyday Guide to Wine focus on the wines of southern and northern Italy. I believe there was also an episode on the wines of central Italy. I know nothing about wine, but I did watch them and hear all kinds of wine words like tannins and legs and other such things. So I think for people who know about wine, these would probably be great. So again, great courses. If you want to learn about wine and Italy, there are options for you on Canopy and Hoopla.
Sounds like you need snacks before this. This pick requires snacks. Okay. We've told you, prepare thy snacks before you're watching. All right. That's it for us. You have now so much information as humans to go forth and read, watch, consume things that will fill your brain with wonder. If you enjoyed the program, you'll see other episodes down below in our YouTube description. That's it for us for 2025. We'll see you again with new Staff Picks episodes in 2026. Thanks, everybody.